On the morning of the 1st of February 1944, a young American soldier lay flat against the cold Italian earth, watching his world come apart. Private First Class Alton Warren. Knappenberger gripped his Browning automatic rifle, 11 kilograms of steel and wood, and studied 3 German machine gun nests as they systematically tore through his platoon. The distance between them was scarcely more than a cricket pitch. 85 to 120 yards, close enough to see the muzzle flash, close enough to die. His uniform bore 3 fresh bullet holes, rounds that had missed him by inches. The wooden stock of his rifle carried a splintered groove where a German bullet had struck it rather than his face. He had been there, on that small mound, for 90 minutes alone. Every German gun within 300 yards was now trained on him. Before we go on, if you enjoy these untold stories from history, do consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. Military doctrine was quite clear on the matter: seek cover, stay low, don't expose yourself. Alton Knappenberger did precisely the opposite. He climbed to the highest point in the field and stayed there. 20 years old. A deer hunter from Spring Mount, Pennsylvania. 0 confirmed kills before this day. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, he would account for at least 60 German casualties and break a counterattack that should have overrun the American beachhead entirely. His tactic was remarkably simple: to understand how a rural deer hunter killed 60 Wehrmacht soldiers using the same logic he'd employed waiting for bucks in the Pennsylvania woodlands. You need to see what he saw that morning. Alton Warren Knappenberger was born on the 31st of December, 1923, in Spring Mount, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Rural country. His father worked in a factory. His mother kept the house. From the age of 12, Alton had stalked white-tailed deer in the woods around Spring Mount. His primary technique was the elevated stand, a position in a tree or ground blind set higher than the deer trails below. The logic was tactical. Height equals visibility. Deer move on the ground, rarely look upward. The hunter waits, sees everything, controls the field. Patience was the skill. Sit motionless for 6 hours without moving. 1 shot, 1 deer. Ammunition cost money. The .30-30 Winchester cartridge his father used was expensive. You did not waste rounds. You waited for the clean shot, then took it. Reading terrain was fundamental. Before climbing into the stand, Alton studied the forest. Where would the deer move? What trails did they use? The stand went in the best position to observe all approaches. The hunter controlled the geometry of the encounter. Before the war, Alton worked at a brick factory in Spring Mount. 10 hours a day, carrying 22-kilogram bricks. The work built muscle and endurance. But it was the hunting that built the instincts that would save him at Anzio. In March 1943, 16 months after Pearl Harbor, the Selective Service Act drafted Alton Knappenberger. He did not volunteer. The Army sent him to basic training at Fort Meade, Maryland. He learnt the M1 Garand first, 8 rounds, semi-automatic. Then they assigned him as a bar gunner. The Browning automatic rifle was the squad automatic weapon. Loaded, it weighed 11 kilograms. More than twice the Garand. Magazine capacity was 20 rounds instead of 8. The bar had 2 rates of fire, slow at 300 to 450 rounds per minute, fast at 500 to 650. Doctrine said, use cover, stay low, conserve ammunition. Alton learnt the lessons. But hunting had taught him something else. Go high, see more, control the field. If you're enjoying this incredible story of courage and tactical brilliance, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us bring you more untold stories from history. September 1943, the 3rd Infantry Division, nicknamed the Rock of the Marne, shipped to Italy. Alton was assigned to Company C, 30th Infantry Regiment. They landed at Salerno in Operation Avalanche. 4 months of fighting followed before Anzio, the Volturno River. The approaches to Monte Cassino. Alton performed his duties, carried the BR, fired when ordered, kept his head down. His platoon nickname was Nappy. He did not stand out. No awards, no commendations. Just another rifleman in a rifle company, the 22nd of January 1944, Operation Shingle. The Allies landed at Anzio and Nettuno, 50 kilometers south of Rome. The objective was to outflank the German Gustav Line and open the road to Rome. The landing caught the Germans by surprise, but General John P. Lucas hesitated. Instead of advancing immediately towards Rome, he consolidated the beachhead. That hesitation gave Field Marshal Albert Kesselring time to react. Within 48 hours, German reinforcements surrounded the beachhead. Elite units, the Hermann Göring Panzer Division, the 3rd Panzer Grenadier Division, battle-hardened troops who had fought in North Africa and Sicily. By the 30th of January, the Allies were trapped in a perimeter 15 kilometers deep and 25 kilometers wide. The Germans began counterattacking to push the Allies back into the sea. The 30th and 31st of January. The Battle of Cisterna. The US Rangers attempted to break through German lines and take the town of Cisterna de Latina, a strategic crossroads 15 kilometers inland. The attack failed catastrophically. Derby's Rangers were surrounded. 761 men killed or captured. The 3rd Infantry Division could not break through to relieve them. By the 1st of February, the Germans were preparing a major counterattack. The plan was to split the beachhead and destroy the Allied forces piecemeal. Company C received orders on the evening of the 31st of January. Reconnaissance patrol near Cisterna. Identify German positions before the expected counterattack. Alton Knappenberger packed 6 magazines for his Bayard, 120 rounds. At 11:30 on the 1st of February, the patrol moved out. Company C moved in a dispersed line across open farmland near Cisterna, 30 to 40 men advancing slowly. The terrain was flat. Agricultural fields, recently harvested wheat, stubble 10 to 15 centimeters high. No trees, minimal cover. Just shallow depressions in the ground, natural folds in the earth, barely 30 centimeters deep. The soil was semi-frozen. February in central Italy. Temperatures around 5 degrees Celsius. The patrol objective was simple. Move 300 meters forward. Identify German positions. Withdraw. Alton walked on the right flank of the line, bar in his hands. His hunter's eyes scanned the field constantly. Something felt wrong. The field was too open. Where were the Germans? 11:45. The 1st MG42 opened fire. The sound was unmistakable. A high-pitched ripping sound. 1,200 rounds per minute. Like an electric saw cutting through wood. The German machine gun fired from a camouflaged position ahead. The first burst killed 3 Americans instantly. The rest of the patrol dove for cover. But there was no real cover. Just shallow depressions that barely concealed a prone man. Then the 2nd MG42 opened fire from the left. Then the 3rd from the right. The patrol was caught in a perfect crossfire. Pinned. Unable to advance or retreat. Every movement drew fire. The lieutenant yelled orders, but no one could move. The MG42s fired in alternating bursts, 5 to 7 seconds of fire. 3 to 4 seconds to change barrels or reload. Then fire again. Constant pressure. 5 more men were hit in the first 15 minutes. One tried to crawl to a wounded man. The MG42 fired. He retreated. The patrol was immobilized. For 15 minutes, paralysis. Alton lay in a shallow depression, bar pointed forward. He studied the field the way he studied forests. The MG42 positions were not directly visible, but he could detect their locations. The first nest, 85 yards ahead. He saw muzzle flash and smoke. The second nest, 100 yards to the left. He saw the barrel moving. The third nest, 120 yards to the right. He could only hear that one. No visual confirmation. All 3 were positioned in low ground or behind sandbags, barely visible above field level. From his prone position, Alton could barely see them. But 60 yards ahead of him, there was a small knoll, a mound of earth perhaps 2 to 3 meters higher than the surrounding field. The only elevated point visible. No trees, no cover, completely exposed. But from up there, he would see everything. The thought formed in his mind like a hunter planning a stalk. From that knoll, I see where they are. They see me, but I see them better. I become the deer. They become the hunters. But if they're shooting at me, they're not shooting at my brothers. Alton turned to the soldier next to him. I'm going to that knoll. The soldier stared at him. You're insane. You'll be killed in 10 seconds. Alton replied, they cannot kill all of us if they're shooting at me. The soldier said, Nappy, don't. But Alton was already starting to crawl. The lieutenant was 20 meters behind, could not see what Alton was doing. Alton did not ask permission. He did not wait for orders. He improvised. 12:05. Alton began crawling towards the knoll, 60 yards away. The bar, 11 kilograms, dragged with his right hand. His elbows pulled his body forward through the stubble. The semi-frozen soil cut his hands. The MG42s were firing over the field, but they had not seen him yet. They were focused on the main American positions. Alton crawled 10 yards, past a dead American soldier, face down in the dirt. Blood frozen. Alton did not stop. An MG42 burst swept the area, bullets kicking up dirt 2 meters to his left. He froze 10 seconds. The MG42 stopped firing. Crew reloading. Alton continued. 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards. The Germans still had not detected him. His movement was slow. He stayed low. They were focused on larger threats. At 50 yards, he reached the base of the knoll. The ground began to slope upward, almost there. Alton crawled the last 2 to 3 meters up the slope. Now he was above the level of the field. If the Germans looked now, he was dead. But they did not look. They were still firing at the pinned platoon. Alton reached the top of the knoll, positioned himself prone, bar forward. From this position, he had a 360-degree view over the flat field. He could see everything. MG nest number 1, 85 yards ahead. 3 men. MG42 on a tripod. Low sandbags. MG nest number 2, 100 yards to the left. 2 men visible. 1 feeding the belt. 1 firing. MG nest number 3, 120 yards to the right, only the barrel visible. Position heavily camouflaged. Behind him, 30 American soldiers pinned across 150 meters of front. He made his tactical decision, engaged the closest target first. MG nest number 1, 85 yards. He switched the bar selector to slow, 300 to 450 rounds per minute. More control, less wasted ammunition, 12:10. Alton aimed at the MG42 gunner in nest number 1. Controlled his breathing, held it, squeezed the trigger. The bar fired 4 rounds in 1 second. The gunner fell backwards. The second crewman, the ammunition feeder, turned to see what had happened. Alton fired again. 3 rounds. The second crewman fell. The third man ran. MG42 number 1 was silenced. The Germans in the other positions saw the shooting. They searched for foot source. 5 seconds later, they identified Alton on the knoll. Both remaining MG42s swung towards him. Storm of bullets, the 7.92mm round snapped through the air around Alton with supersonic cracks. Bullets struck the ground near him, kicked up dirt, ricocheted off rocks. 1 round passed 6 inches from his head. Another tore through his uniform sleeve, ripping the fabric but not touching skin. A third round struck the wooden stock of his belt, gouging a deep groove in the wood. Alton rolled 2 meters to his right, changing position on the knoll. Movement equals survival. Deer detects static shapes. Germans aim at where you were, not where you are. Keep moving, even if just a meter or 2. If you're finding this fascinating, do hit subscribe. It helps us uncover more stories like this. 12 minutes past 12. 2 German grenadiers advanced from the left, moving in tactical bounds. Crouched runs, 5 to 10 meters, then drop, then run again. They were Panzer grenadiers. Each man carried 3 to 4 steel hand granite stick grenades. Their objective was to flank the knoll, get close, throw grenades, kill Alton. Distance, 40 yards, then 30 yards, then 25, then 20. Alton watched them through his sights. He did not fire. The hunter's patience. Wait for the clean shot. Do not fire too early. Let the target come closer at 20 yards. He fired a burst of 6 rounds. The first grenadier fell, struck in the chest. The second grenadier tried to throw a grenade. His arm came up. The grenade left his hand. Alton fired again. 4 rounds. The second grenadier fell. The grenade exploded 15 meters away, not close enough to damage the knoll. 2 more Germans dead. 20 past 12. MG42 nest number 2, 100 yards to the left, was still active. The crew was firing bursts at the knoll. Alton switched the bar selector to fast, 500 to 650 rounds per minute, greater volume of fire for suppression at longer range. He fired a burst of 10 rounds in 1.5 seconds. Tracer rounds, phosphorus-tipped bullets that left a visible trail, marked every 5th round. The tracers streaked towards the German position. The objective was suppression. Force the crew to take cover. The MG42 stopped firing temporarily. The crew ducked behind sandbags. Alton fired a second burst, 8 rounds. He saw 1 German fall backwards. The MG42 tried to resume firing, but the crew was disorganized. Only 1 man left. Alton fired a third burst, 6 rounds. The MG42 stopped permanently. Nest number 2 was silenced. 2 out of 3 nests eliminated. Estimated German dead so far, 8 to 10, 25 past 12. Alton checked his current magazine. 3 rounds left. He had 2 magazines remaining on his belt, 40 rounds total. Total available ammunition, 43 rounds. But MG nest number 3 was still active, plus an unknown number of German infantry in support. Ammunition was becoming a problem. The BAR barrel was hot to the touch, approximately 150 to 200 rounds fired in 15 minutes. The bar had no water cooling. Overheating was a real risk if he continued sustained fire. His hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, from adrenaline and the physical strain of controlling 11 kilograms of recoiling weapon. His shoulders ached from the BAR's recoil. His mouth was dry. His canteen was with his pack, left behind when he crawled to the knoll. Alton spat to wet his mouth. The taste was gunpowder and dirt. 12:30. A new threat appeared. Alton saw 20 to 30 German soldiers advancing from the rear. A German assault platoon. Objective, overrun the knoll. They advanced in a staggered line, moving by bounds. Half the unit advanced 10 to 15 meters, stopped, provided cover. The other half advanced, then they switched. Textbook infantry tactics. Initial distance, 150 yards. Then 120, then 100. Alton made a tactical decision. Ignore MG nest number 3. It was 120 yards away. Too far for the bar to be effective against a fortified position. Focus on the infantry. They were closer. A more immediate threat. At 100 yards, Alton opened fire. Selector on fast. 500 to 650 rounds per minute. Short burst to conserve ammunition. 4 rounds. Shift aim. 4 rounds. Shift aim. Focus on exposed targets. Do not waste bullets on difficult shots. Germans began to fall. The first man, hit in the chest, dropped. The second, hit in the leg, fell screaming. Third, fourth, fifth, 5 to 6 Germans down in 30 seconds. The rest sought cover, diving into depressions or behind the bodies of dead comrades. At 80 yards, Alton continued firing. Any movement drew a burst of 3 to 4 rounds. A German raised his head to look. Burst. He fell. Another tried to crawl forward. Burst. He fell. 4 to 5 more Germans down. The assault platoon could not advance against concentrated fire from an elevated position. A German officer, heard shouting in German, ordered a temporary withdrawal. The assault platoon retreated. Estimated German casualties in this engagement, 10 to 12. Alton was still on the knoll, still alive, 20 to 12. Alton squeezed the bar trigger. Click, magazine empty. He swapped to his last magazine. 20 rounds left, that was all. MG nest number 3, 120 yards to the right, was still firing. Bullets struck around Alton. One round hit 6 inches to his left. Another round struck the bar stock, splintering wood. Another tore through his uniform sleeve, ripping fabric but not breaking skin. 20 rounds remaining. MG nest number 3 still active. The Germans could send another assault platoon at any moment. I need more ammunition, now. Alton identified a dead American soldier 15 yards below the knoll. The same soldier he had passed during his initial crawl. The dead man had an M1 Garand and a cartridge belt. Alton had a choice. Descend the knoll into full exposure, or stay and run out of ammunition when the Germans attacked again. Certain risk now versus certain death later. He chose to move. 17 minutes to 1. Alton began crawling down the knoll towards the body, 15 yards away. The German MG42 detected movement, opened fire. Bullets tore up the ground around him. At 5 yards, a German grenade exploded 5 meters to his right. The shockwave, dirt in his face. He continued crawling. At 10 yards, an MG42 burst past centimeters above him. At 15 yards, he reached the body. He turned the dead soldier over, searched for bar magazines. None. The soldier had an M1 Garand, not a bar. The Garand used M-block clips, 8 rounds each. The bar used 20-round box magazines. Same ammunition, 30-06 Springfield, but different feed systems. Alton would have to manually empty the Garand clips and reload his bar magazines by hand, under fire. He removed the cartridge belt from the corpse. 6 clips, 48 cartridges total. The MG42 continued firing. Alton's hands were shaking from adrenaline and incoming fire. He grabbed the first clip, ejected 8 cartridges into his palm, picked up an empty bar magazine, began inserting rounds one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Grabbed the second clip. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. His hands were shaking too badly to load all 20. He managed 16 rounds. An MG42 burst cracked nearby. Good enough, he shoved the remaining clips into his pocket. About 32 rounds. Crawled back up the knoll. 14 minutes to 1. Alton was back at the top. Magazine loaded with 16 rounds, plus approximately 32 more rounds in loose clips in his pocket. Total 48 rounds. A quick note. If you're enjoying this, subscribing really does make a difference. Now back to the story. 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. The pattern repeated. Germans attempted to flank. Alton fired. Germans retreated. Every 15 to 20 minutes, a new German attempt. At 20 past 1, MG nest number 3 finally went silent. The crew either evacuated or died. The record does not specify which. Alton reloaded his magazines 3 more times using the Garand clips. Each reload took 2 to 3 minutes. Dangerous, exposed, but necessary. Estimated total rounds fired over 2 hours, 200 to 250. Alton lost count of how many Germans he killed. His focus was survival, not scorekeeping. 2 o'clock. The American platoon, pinned for over 2 hours, was finally able to move. With the MG42 nests silenced, soldiers advanced or retreated to safer positions. Some moved forward to consolidate terrain. Others fell back with the wounded. An officer, so probably the lieutenant, shouted towards the knoll. "Nappy, get down here!" Alton fired his last rounds, then descended from the knoll. He walked back towards American lines. His uniform had 3 bullet holes. The bar stock was splintered. The barrel was still hot. Soldiers looked at him in silence. Someone said, "You held them for 2 hours. Alone." Alton did not respond. Exhaustion. A medic checked him for wounds. Nothing. Not a scratch. Miracle, luck, or constant movement. Impossible to know. Days later, intelligence officers returned to the field near the knoll. They counted German bodies. In front of the knoll, approximately 20 to 25 corpses. In the surrounding area, MG nests and approaches, approximately 35 to 40 bodies or evidence of wounded, evacuated by the Germans. Total, approximately 60 casualties, confirmed dead, plus seriously wounded evacuated. Distribution primarily in a 180-degree arc in front of the knoll. MG nest number 1, 85 yards, 3 dead. MG nest number 2, 100 yards, 2 to 4 dead. 2 grenadiers, 2 dead. Assault platoon, 10 to 12 dead or wounded. Other engagements, 20 to 30 dead or wounded. The divisional commander, Major General Lucien Truscott, of the 3rd Infantry Division, called Alton Knappenberger a one-man army. Recommendation for the Medal of Honor was immediate, February through May 1944. Alton continued in combat after Anzio. The 3rd Infantry Division fought to break out of the beachhead. The 23rd of May, Operation Diadem. The breakout succeeded. The 4th of June, Rome was liberated. Alton entered Rome with the 3rd Infantry Division. On the 26th of May 1944, the Medal of Honor was awarded. The official citation was read. It described Alton positioning himself on an exposed knoll. Enemy fire striking within 6 inches of him. Crawling 15 yards under fire to obtain rifle clips from a fallen comrade. Single-handedly breaking up the enemy attack for more than 2 hours. Alton was 20 years old, had seen 5 months of combat. This was the first and only action for which he was recognized. After the ceremony, Alton was sent back to the United States. He participated in the War Bonds tour, telling his story to sell war bonds. This was standard procedure for Medal of Honor recipients. Did doctrine change? Not officially. Army field manuals still taught. Use cover, stay low. But the story of Alton Knappenberger was taught at infantry school at Fort Benning as an example of adaptation to terrain, using disadvantages as advantages. Exposure equals visibility equals control. Initiative when command is paralyzed. The lesson: doctrine is a guide, not an absolute law. Terrain plus situation overrides the manual. Alton's decision was against doctrine, but tactically brilliant for that specific terrain. If you've stayed with us this far, you're exactly the kind of viewer we make these for. Please do subscribe. 1945 to 2008. Alton returned to Pennsylvania. He worked as a lorry driver, then as a supervisor of an asphalt paving crew. He avoided the spotlight. Rarely spoke about the war. He married, had children, grandchildren. He taught his children and grandchildren hunting and fishing, passing on the civilian skills that had saved him in combat. Personal characteristics: quiet, humble. Just did my job. Local veterans knew him, knew about the Medal of Honor, but Alton never boasted, never told the story unless asked. The 9th of June, 2008, Alton Warren Knappenberger died. He was 84 years old. He was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. His headstone is simple: name, rank, private first class, Medal of Honor. No mention of 60 Germans, no mention of 2 hours on the knoll. Somewhere near Cisterna di Latina, there is a flat field with a small knoll. 2 to 3 meters of elevation. Nothing more. On the 1st of February 1944, that knoll was the most dangerous point in 10 square kilometers. Alton Warren Knappenberger, 20 years old, deer hunter from Spring Mount, Pennsylvania. He climbed that knoll the way a hunter climbs into a tree stand. He waited. He shot. He survived. And he saved 30 men who could not move. The logic was simple. I become the deer, they become the hunters. Military doctrine says seek cover. Alton Knappenberger said, go I, see more, control the field.